All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We have about a week until the AP exam, and I'll be getting you back this week an individual response, right? I'll give you feedback on your timed writing through Classroom. But, if you're feeling any concern, if you need to reach out, if you want to just, try to get better at something or just get some feedback or just, come up with a personal strategy before writing the AP exam, I can try to tailor one to you. All right, I'd be happy to reach out. But today, I'm just going to go through writing the rhetorical analysis exam, and it's going to go from just being a step by step to then me adopting like an analogy that utilizes the New York skyline and buildings. And it sounds weird, but you'll get it once I get there. So we're going to go on a little ride today. We're starting off with steps and concepts for rhetorical analysis essay. And let me break that down for you. Okay, so this is really nothing new, but the way they're setting it up is they're going to give you a maximum of 50 minutes total. And that includes 5 minutes, if I may just jump to the bottom here, 5 minutes to upload your response. I cannot stress how important that is. The AP has really gone out of their way to make it very clear that if you don't make this 5 minute upload, you're done. They don't give you credit, and then you cannot retake the exam. So I'm assuming that's not going to be a problem, but we don't want to screw around with it either. So let's start at number one, okay? This deconstruct the prompt, again, you just read the directions very carefully, and you may find it beneficial. I would recommend that you underline any part of that prompt that seems very important, okay? Then number two, people, this is everything. I think in some ways this is more important than the even writing of it because, yeah, writing the essay is important, but if you don't do number two, you are really just going to be in a world of trouble. You're going to be making things up as you go along. You're not going to have a direction or a focus. You're going to kind of meander around ideas. There are people in our class that are brilliant writers, and I think, you're amazing. You can think very clearly and very, dynamically. But if you don't have a plan, it doesn't matter. You are not going to come up with something worthy of submitting. So what does number two really mean? Well, you screen through the text. And because it's a rhetorical analysis text, I would be starting out big. I'd be looking for big things like appeals, ethos, logos, pathos. Circle those things, right? Underline them. I don't care. Draw big pictures next to them. Make sure you know, hey, this is a logical argument. This is an emotional argument or appeal. Hey, this person is projecting authority or expertise here, right? I would carve out the big stuff, and then I'd knock it into little stuff like diction and syntax, but we're going to get to that. So the pre-writing is you are planning or mapping out what you're going to write about. You could also call it an outline. Okay, hey, maybe you make a bullet list of the points you're going to make. Maybe you come up with a list of quotes that you're going to use. However you do it, you never want to start driving in your car until you know where you're going to stop driving in your car, right? You don't want to program your GPS coordinates while you're going 80 miles an hour on the throughway or you're in midtown traffic. You want to plan your route while you're sitting in your driveway, right? Looking at your directions and programming your GPS. The same with this. So that pre-writing, that outline is a time to kind of pause, read carefully, figure out what you're going to say, what order you're going to say it in, what kind of evidence you're going to use. We're going to get to that as well. If you do your 1 minute and then your 10 minutes, you're left with about 30 to 34 minutes of actually writing the essay. Not an incredible amount of time, but everyone in the nation is in the same boat as you. And I really think they're going to be grading based on, what you have written down. That does not mean that you want to be incomplete. You certainly want to write a well-rounded essay. You want to finish your essay. But I think they're going to be going qualitative here. So you do the best you can. All right, think about the quality of what you're writing. And at 30, 34 minutes, it doesn't sound like a long time, but that's going to be fine if you do number two seriously. If you really figure out carefully what you're going to say, then you might not write a lot. You might write 2 pages, but hey, what you're writing is focused, right? It's organized. And again, you want to give your time to upload the response. Okay, we touched on this in one of our last videos, but let's pretend you're now in your introduction, right? You're in your introductory paragraph. Well, you know you have to write a claim, right? This is you saying, hey, this is my position. This is what I'm writing about. But if it's a rhetorical essay, your claim is going to be about the writer's claim. You're writing about what they're writing about. You're letting me know what it is they're doing. So your claim, part of it anyway, is going to be this rhetorical situation. Before you get into the body of the essay, we probably want to know the speaker, the audience, the message, and what is the objective of the writer. This is kind of what we talked about in class. Recently, I gave you this other acronym, SOAPS. If this is better for you, then use this. Speaker, occasion, audience, purpose. I don't care which one of these you use, but this is you identifying the rhetorical situation. It's you mapping out the triangle, or it's you just following this acronym, but in your introduction, you have to give me the context. You have to give me, right, the situation. So whom is trying to convince whom? Of what? What is the objective of the writer or speaker? What techniques are they using? What evidence of techniques will you be sharing to support your claim? You know, if you don't have it so finely tuned that you can give me this part in your intro, that's okay. You know, in class during the year, I wanted you to map this out really carefully. But on test day, make sure you give me the situation. What is the author trying to achieve? What is their message? What are they trying to do? All right. What is the situation? That's the most important thing. If you have to, you can give me the techniques in the body of the paragraph or in your body paragraphs. Okay. People, I'd like you to picture a camera. And when you zoom in on something, what happens is that you focus really, really, really closely on details. But guess what? You can't see anything around it. When you zoom out, you can see everything, but you can't see anything in detail. Okay, so when you are doing your reading, and if you look at this title, it says from text reading to body paragraph writing. So the last slide was, hey, this is what you want to do in your introduction. Now we're going to go a little bit more conceptual. When you're reading the text, and then that is going to translate into what you're putting into body paragraphs, you want to start out big. You want to zoom out. You want to look for large patterns, right? Big things. Imagine you're in a helicopter and you're flying over the surface of the land and you look down and you go, hey, I could see the river, I could see the rocks, I could see that mountain. You can see everything. You can't see it in a detailed way, but you can see it in relation to the different pieces. The ethos, the logos, and the pathos are going to be the big things that you want to look for first. We start big and then we get microscopic. So what are you doing when you see these? Well, how do they work together? Why are they in this particular order? All right, so you're starting out by zooming out with a wide lens, okay? So for example, we have, I think, the New York skyline here. You're zooming out with your wide lens. When you zoom out using a wide angle lens, everything is in the picture. All objects are visible and you can see the general organization or relationship between these objects. So this is going to sound cheesy, I admit, but imagine that those buildings are your rhetorical appeals. Hey, there's the Ethos building. Hey, look at that fat short one. That's the Logos building. Hey, look at those two to the side, the gray ones. Those are the Pathos buildings. You can't see anything in detail. You're not zooming in yet, but hey, look at how they're all there together. And you can kind of say, well, which one comes first, right? Which comes second? You could explain which building is where. You could describe their color and compare their dimensions. You could explain which building is first as the camera pans left to right. Okay, these wide angle observations, that whole skyline, those are your appeals. Imagine one building is Ethos and another is Logos. Why are they next to each other? Why does one come first? How does each work in a general way? What's happening? How's it being used? Is one building more central than maybe another building? So just to review, I'm being a bit repetitive, but just take a look, right? Your wide lens is you zooming out and capturing everything. That is what I would do first in a body paragraph. I'd look for that ethos, that logos, that pathos, those big things you're flying over. in your helicopter, and you could see them way from above, okay? You can see everything, okay? But can you see everything well? The wide lens captures all, but it captures nothing in detail. So guess what we have to do after we discuss our appeal? So you talked about ethos and how the author is creating an argument, and the argument is conveying ethos, and the ethos is having this effect. That's great. Now we have to take our camera and we have to switch lenses from the big wide angle lens. Now we're going to switch to a narrow lens. We're going to zoom in. So after zooming out, next, now we zoom in from a wide lens to a narrow lens. So I'm going in review. I'm just going back one step just to kind of get this thing. In each body paragraph, start with a wide lens, discuss the appeals, okay? There they are. But for each appeal, switch to the narrow lens and zoom in. And now we're just looking at one building, okay? We have zoomed in. But what has changed? When you zoom into an appeal, you can now see the details. We're not just looking at those buildings from far away. Now we're looking specifically at the Empire State Building. And guess what? Now we start to see details. What are those details? Those are your rhetorical devices or your elements of language. It is now the time to discuss things like diction, or comparison, or tone, or description, or imagery. Maybe there's metaphor, figurative language, perhaps there's dialogue, repetition, selection of detail. These are the building blocks of those skyscrapers, right? Those big buildings, the Logos building, the Ethos, the Pathos building, they're made up of steel beams and bricks and mortar and stone. Well, these are the building blocks right here, okay? So details must be revealed through quotations. Zoom in on the appeal, and you will discover the device creating it. Discuss the device and reveal through a quotation. So I'll backtrack one slide. We were just here. You find in the beginning of that paragraph you're writing what the appeal, the dominant appeal is. Maybe you talk about more than one appeal. That's cool. But in a general way, you explain what's happening. Then you zoom in with your narrow lens and you look carefully at the text. What is creating that appeal? And now you discuss those. This is where the nuts and bolts of your essay are, the foundation, right? And of course, through a quotation now, you'll demonstrate what those devices are. So each body paragraph should start with a wide lens and then transfer to a narrow lens. Begin by zooming out and taking in the big pictures, ethos, logos, pathos. We're pretty good at that. You can discuss one or more in a body paragraph. That's fine. You could put a couple in a body paragraph, or you could leave one in a body paragraph. But tell me about them in a general way. What is happening on the surface? Remember when we zoomed out, right? You can't see anything close up, but you can see everything in a general way. So begin by zooming out and taking in the big structures, ethos, logos, and pathos. You can discuss one or more in a body paragraph. Tell me about them in a general way. What is happening on the surface? Why is the author using it? Does one pave the way for another? Do two of them work together? Talk about that appeal. Each body paragraph should start with a wide lens and then transfer to a narrow lens. Again, I'm repeating myself, but anyway. Once you have described the big picture, appeal, zoom in and capture the details that make the appeal possible. These are your devices. Here's an example. All right, we start out really big and we end really small. The author's appeal to pathos in lines 3 through 10 forces her audience to feel remorse and shame. Right? We're looking at the building right now from far away. By evoking emotions of pity and horror, the audience reflects more thoughtfully on the argument of the author. So we're still looking out from far away from those buildings. Now we're going to zoom in. Sorrowful war imagery, such as ragged faces bleared in blood and dead eyes, craft a tragic impression. Moralistic or judgmental diction, such as evil and cruel, also contribute to the pathos of this argument against war. And that's about what that would look like from zooming out to zooming in.